would just encourage people, if the child makes an outcry, take them seriously. I just see too often it's the second time the child reports it, or they report it to this person, and then finally it gets reported to law enforcement. And meanwhile, I mean, they made an outcry 2 years ago and just nothing was done about it. And it's horrible to think that kid finally got the courage to speak up and then nothing's done for years.
I just want to thank Zachary Blackmon again, who is a district attorney here in Hopkins County. He has tried 16 felony trials, 15 of which have resulted in convictions, and he is not only board certified in criminal law, he is eager and working hard towards hopefully becoming the district attorney of Hopkins County in the future. So we thank him for his time. And speaking of young kids committing crimes, you had Camilla Anthony trial, and he was 17 or 18.
I think 17 at the time.
17 at the time. He murdered Austin Metcalf.
Yeah, Metcalf. Yeah.
And it was, definitely spurred a lot of racial divide, knowing what his sentence was, 35 years. Was it 35 years?
Yes. Yep.
And a lot of people criticized the fact that there weren't other African Americans on the jury. Do you have an opinion on that? And what is your opinion about trying someone? I guess they tried him as an adult, even though he committed a crime as, I guess under
18.
Yeah, under the adult age.
So to the jury selection issue, I would say, obviously there's a procedure in place that prevents either side from striking people based on protected characteristics. That's going to be your race, your sex, your gender. You cannot strike people. And if you think the other side is up to that, you can raise what's called a Batson challenge. And you basically say, hey, that looks like they're using and striking based on these characteristics, which is impermissible. That puts the proponent, the person who exercised those strikes, that shifts the burden to them. They've got to come up with a race neutral reason, or sex neutral, whatever the basis was, for why they struck them. I think in this case, they basically said, hey, these are educators that we're striking, and we don't want educators on the jury. That was the state's argument. That then shifts the burden back to the person making the Batson challenge, and they have to say, essentially establish why that's pretext. Why, you're saying that, but that's a bunch of BS. You're really striking them because of this. That was all played out, and the trial court judge found that they exercised their peremptory lawfully, because they were educators, that it didn't have to do with race. I think I read in some reports that some of the other African-American jurors had disqualified themselves. I mean, there's two types of strikes. You've got your peremptory, which can be any reason other than like what I just talked about. I mean, it could be, you're wearing khaki right there, and I just went to a voir dire school, and they said, if that woman's wearing khaki, you don't want her on her jury. I mean, for something as dumb as that.
But it can't be because she's of a certain race.
Correct.
Right.
But then there's challenges for cause. And I think a lot of the African-American jurors eliminated themselves for cause. I read statements like, I just couldn't put another black person in prison or something like that. Or he's so young, I think is what it actually was. He's so young, I don't think I could put him in prison. And that's just immediately, I mean, okay, so you're basically saying you can't follow the law and you can't follow the full range of punishment, so you're disqualified. Right. And that's what it looked like that happened there. I mean, you can get these people that have analyzed it. I mean, I don't know the demographics, but something about, 1% of Collin County is, I forget what the proportionality was, but essentially there were non-white jurors. I mean, everything looked to be representative, and to think that a juror of your peers means I get 12 African-American jurors in Collin County, well, that means that would not be a proportionate panel, considering the demographics of Collin County. So, well, there was a defense that I didn't hear raised that I thought would have been a good argument. And I'm curious to know if you hear this in your trials with young kids. And that is, their brain wasn't fully formed to be making right decisions. And to have, some kind of mercy, at least in the sentencing phase, that he acted in a way that an adult wouldn't have had they had a mature
mind, which would be after the age of 25.
Yeah. So Texas, and this
I
kind
don't
of
think they raised that in that trial.
I think I know why. And so it kind of goes back to your first question. So in Texas, you're considered an adult when you're 17. That's the age of consent. There's no certification or anything that has to happen. If you're 17, and there's lots of debate about changing this, but if you're 17, you're an adult in the state of Texas.
I thought it was 18.
No. So you're an adult at 17 years of age.
So 17, you can consent to sex as well. That is an adult.
Yes.
Okay.
And so the law, and once you're an adult, you're under the reasonable person standard. And so for a self-defense, it's what would the reasonable, ordinary person, not who's got whatever, things going on for the defendant, but what's the reasonable person, how would they have acted, that sort of thing. And I mean, I think Bill Werski, the prosecutor for the state, put it best. I mean, you don't get to go up to someone and provoke and say, touch me, see what happens, touch me, see what happens. And then when they touch you, kill them and then claim self-defense. Right. And that's ultimately, I mean, like I said, I wasn't there. I didn't watch any of the trial, but that seemed to be what the evidence established was essentially he was there, and it doesn't really matter if he's lawfully there or not. I mean, I guess that has to do with the duty to retreat, but he's there. They want him to leave, and he says no, and is basically saying, you're going to have to move me, touch me, see what happens. And in Texas, you don't get to just provoke something and then claim self-defense. You just don't get to do it.
Well, can you not make the argument that the prefrontal cortex is just not fully formed?
Yeah.
And you're just not making good decisions?
Yeah. And so I think it just goes to what would the reasonable and an ordinary adult, as Texas defines, you're just an adult. What's the reasonable and ordinary person in that circumstance? What would they do? And I mean, I just think that the analysis doesn't go to necessarily that particular defendant and his mindset. It's what would a reasonable and ordinary person do when they're sitting at a tent and a track meet and they're told to move. I mean, what would they do? But I get your point because, yes, I mean, I do think the science and all that shows that you don't make good decisions until you're 25. I certainly rings true to me.
Well, I think about Mark Lanier. So he just had the kind of landmark trial out in California about all of the addiction with Facebook and social media. And he got a verdict in his favor by showing that these companies were intentionally trying to get children hooked, almost like a casino. Yeah. And having the casino effect. And I think he had emails to that effect showing that they knew they could do it because unlike an adult, their frontal cortex is not formed, and they don't have the ability to stop and say no. And they just, continue along. And that's why they're not allowed in casinos. One reason, I'm sure.
Yeah. I think your issue, too, that you're raising, that definitely goes more to sentencing, right? And in my mind, I think you're guilty of the offense. It's just the reasonable person. But then when you're looking at what do I do about this?
I think mercy on.
I think that definitely, and I mean, that's persuasive to me, certainly to some degree. And I think it probably was persuasive to the Collin County jury that decided we're going to give 35 years for a murder. I think a lot of people are up in arms about that. Especially people around here, they think it's too light. I'm sure.
I was going to say, what do you think would have happened in Hopkins County?
I mean, there's no telling. Like I said, I didn't see what evidence they presented. I didn't go to the trial, but I mean, it's a tough case because on the one hand, you've got a young child whose life was taken. Then on the other hand, you've got this kid who, like you said, he's not mature. We all know how 17-year-old boys act. I mean, you expect them to back. Right. You're going to back down in front of a group of your peers. I mean, that's not the first nature for a 17-year-old. So I think those issues probably played into the jury's verdict of 35 years for sure.
Well, tell us, where do you see yourself in 10 years? Where is Zachary Blackmon in 10 years from now? You're 31 now. So if you're just a few years younger than I am in 10 years, where are you?
Hopefully I would be just still here in this role, serving as a prosecutor. I was trying to think. So it'd be hopefully maybe in my second term as district attorney in 10 years. That would be awesome for me. I don't plan on going anywhere. Certainly I'm home. I'm here. I own a house here. I've been back since 2020. Love it. Got a wife, got a kid, so don't plan on leaving anytime soon. I'm not pulling roots up. And if I'm fortunate enough to get elected in by the people, certainly looking forward to serving in that role. And if not, then we'll just see what God's got in store for me.
Excellent. And then what does the district attorney do as far as overseeing all the other attorneys in the office?
So that's a great question. And that's, some of what I'm kind of starting to think about. How am I going to get better at this? Because I'm what's called a line prosecutor right now. I get assigned cases. Sure, I manage relationships with our law enforcement agencies, manage relationships with the victims and make sure that they're kept in touch. But like the office, any office personnel issues, budget, dealing with commissioners' courts, the whole 9 yards. I mean, that's all going to be foreign to me. And so the district attorney's office, I mean, obviously they've run a budget. You've got a team of assistants that help you prosecute the cases because you could never do it all by yourself. You've got your relationships with the community, the victim, the different organizations that work alongside law enforcement. Obviously, your community, your constituents, and things like that. I mean, you've got a lot to oversee as you do the juvenile cases. For the district attorney's office, we handle the juvenile offenses. You do forfeitures, you represent the state and the civil forfeitures, things like that. And
do you do the hiring and firing?
You do the hiring
the
and
attorneys
firing for
and staff?
Well, for the DA, I mean, it's his entire office. I mean, he's responsible for filling all the positions. We got victim assistance coordinator. We've got our legal assistant who helps us scan cases in and make sure that all of our reporting to the various agencies, CGIS, DPS is done. You got your investigator who helps you procure evidence, interview witnesses, serve subpoenas, the whole 9 yards. You've got your legal assistant up front who kind of is your medium between the public and yourself.
So you're running a law office for the state.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
And how many people are in the office, would you say?
So we've got, we've got 4 attorneys right now, including Will. Including
yourself?
Yes, and myself. And we've got 3 legal assistants, one of whom is titled the Victim Assistance Coordinator. And then we've got our investigator, so however many that is. Okay.
And in your mind, what makes an exceptional DA? What are the qualities?
I mean, what Will is great at is what I'm going to have to learn to do, which is not micromanaging, which is trusting. I'm very much a micromanager. Like I said, I'm the board certified guy. I'm the one that's still got all the energy and the go get them in terms of staying on top of all the latest and greatest developments. And so I'm very quick to get into other people's cases too and say, hey, you can do this and you can do this and we can do this. And so as the DA, you've got to learn to kind of pull back from that a little bit because you can't have your hands in every single case.
And handling all the admin and all the budget.
And the budget. I mean, I've never had to manage a law office. I've never thought about a budget or anything like that. And so it's all things that I know. I think fortunately Will has done a great job of getting that all to where it's pretty much running itself. And so I think it's in good shape. But like I said, if I were fortunate enough to get elected to be that, that's what I'd be doing.
What can the community do to support our district attorneys?
Well, I think not necessarily us, but there's a lot of great organizations out there. I mean, I just think of CASA. I think of Guardians of the Children. Though that's a group of people who they're focused on supporting child sex victims and their families. They'll come to meetings with the DA's office. They'll go to court settings, the whole 9 yards. And their whole deal is they want to be some kind of consistency in what may be a pretty inconsistent time of that particular child's life. And so supporting them is awesome. Supporting our law enforcement, that sort of thing, that all helps because it's a team effort. I mean, they make the arrests, they present cases to us that we prosecute. There's follow-up investigation that we may do, but we're not an investigative agency. If someone's murdered, it's not like the DA's office is investigating it. I mean, that's the law enforcement agencies investigating it, if they have some legal questions or things like that and want our assistance, we'll certainly chime in. But that's what we do.
I had a guest, Jody Neal, on the show, and she wrote a book called Outcry Witness.
I know. I need to get that.
She was a former prosecutor, and she was a victim herself, and that's really what the book is about. What was interesting is what an outcry witness is, and that's the first person, apparently, that a victim shares the story with.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier. So you were asking, does the child have to come in and testify? And yes, you want them to, but there are situations where if they can't, for whatever reason, you can call the outcry witness, and that's under 38.072 of the Code of Criminal Procedure. It's an exception to hearsay, and it's exactly what you said. The first person to whom a child reports a child sex offense to in detail can come testify in court about what the child said. And it's not a hearsay. It's a hearsay exception. It's not hearsay.
Based on your experience prosecuting sex crimes and seeing both the victim and then the evidence and what is in the court, is there anything people in the community could be more aware of in regards to protecting children, taking, any signs, that would be maybe overlooked that you now would say, is something that we could at least realize is something that is a red flag?
So I think a lot of people, I would just encourage people, if the child makes an outcry, take them seriously. It doesn't matter their age, what you may think. I would take it seriously. I would report it to law enforcement. I would have that child forensically interviewed and let the process play out from there. I think too many times children make outcries to adults, and the adult thinks, oh, well, I was around at that time and that wouldn't have happened under my watch. Or, oh, I know so-and-so, and that's a great guy. He'd never, he or she would never do anything like that. And that is hogwash. I mean, as the Brigadier General is a perfect example of it. I mean, a leader at many churches, decorated a million. I mean, he could get character letters for days, but that doesn't mean you didn't do these things. And so I just see too often it's the second time the child reports it, or they report it to this person, and then finally it gets reported to law enforcement. And meanwhile, they made an outcry 2 years ago and just nothing was done about it. And it's horrible to think that that kid finally got the courage to speak up and then nothing's done for years because an adult thinks, oh, well, I was in the car, so, he's saying that happened, but I would have seen that. Or, I think it's a defense mechanism that people put up to say, that stuff wouldn't happen to me, but it can happen to you or your kid. What
would you say if a child tells another child and then you as a parent were to learn that information?
I still report it. Just report it to law enforcement and let them know this is what's being, this is
you just go straight to law enforcement. You don't call CPS. You just call law enforcement.
I would call law enforcement. You can contact CPS too. CPS, again, I don't want to knock them, but they handle situations differently than I would handle them sometimes. I've seen them. If CPS investigates an allegation, a lot of the time, here's what that investigation looks like. Okay, I'm here to meet your kid for the first time ever. Can we go back here in this back room and talk? Sure. Okay. Hey, I know your dad's right here in the other room. Did he molest you? No? Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Right.
Rolled out, never happened. And it's just, that's...
And CPS workers are they licensed? Do they go through anything? It seems like so. I've seen some CPS workers that aren't nearly at the level of a police officer or someone trained, to vet out.
Well, and I don't know that they are. I think they certainly get training and things like that. I don't know if it's on the job or what, but and like I said, I'm not knocking all of them. Some of them are great. It's just and some of that has to do with they've got a huge caseload and they're trying to get through it and manage everything, and so they may not have time to kick over all the stones, but. That's just all that to say is I would report it to CPS, but I wouldn't just place all my bets on them doing something. I'd report it to law enforcement too, especially around here. We've got good law enforcement. They're aggressive. They're not aggressive to where it's just, we're going to rubber stamp and every outcry that comes in, we 100% believe and we're filing a case on. But if there's something there, I trust our law enforcement agencies to investigate it and uncover a crime if a crime's been committed.
What advice can you give to parents about young kids and drug use in Hopkins County?
That's a great question.
Vaping is very popular, vape pens. How would you even know?
I think a lot of that in just thinking in as a parent and kind of my experiences growing up, you gotta have a good relationship with your kid. They need to be, I think they need to be comfortable with you to share, hey, I was over here and this person started doing this without you freaking out and grounding them. But I mean, every parent's different. They've all got their different philosophies. That's a tough question for me.
It's common, right?
Yeah.
What about alcohol in young kids around here?
I mean, it's alcohol can ruin lives. Alcohol has ruined just as many lives as methamphetamine. I can guarantee.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. It's socially acceptable,
right,
which almost makes it more dangerous
and legal, right?
Yeah, yeah. And so, just as quickly as that meth pop will ruin your life, so will drinking a 6-pack and then getting behind the wheel and killing a family.
Exactly.
It's and so the addiction's just as real. The physical withdrawals that people go through when they quit drinking and they're severe alcoholics, just as real, if not worse, than illegal narcotic withdrawals.
Have you had intoxication manslaughter cases come through?
Absolutely. I've had an intox assault where an Austin firefighter for the city of Austin was heading north through Delta County to his cabin in Oklahoma, and he'd been drinking Mad Dog 2020 the whole ride, and gets into a wreck with an elderly couple. He loses his finger. 2 fingers, actually. He's care flighted. He was a woodworker. He doesn't get to woodwork anymore. Retired Army veteran that lived here his whole entire life. His wife gets care flighted with him. She's had, concussion and things like that. And just totally derailed their life. I've got another one on my docket now. It's an intox assault from here in Hopkins County. And so, yeah, we definitely get them. And like I said, alcohol can be just as bit as dangerous as meth, as heroin, you name it.
Any questions you want me to ask that I haven't asked?
No, I think you did awesome. Please
like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and we will see you again. Thanks. Is there anything you want to say?
No, just thank you so much for having me on. I mean, I really appreciate the opportunity to sort of shed light on what we do at the District Attorney's Office, because you wouldn't be surprised how many people go, get the deer in the headlights look of, what? You're an assistant district attorney? What is that? And so I just really appreciate the time and the great questions. So thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely.